So, Jason, welcome to Something Super Spiritual, everybody. This is Jason Tempinski. He is an amazing, you are an amazing lots of things. I love the work that you do. So, Jason is a QHHT practitioner, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Therapy Technique.
Yeah.
Quantum
Yeah.
Healing Hypnosis Technique. So, Jason specializes in past life regression and really helping us delve deeply into where we were in the past and what we brought forth from the past. Maybe we're struggling with health issues or challenges, maybe the same struggles pattern throughout life. Maybe it's finances, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's whatever, but maybe we brought this in from a past life to finally work through it, right? Is that right,
Right.
Jason?
Absolutely.
So the quantum healing hypnosis was developed by Dolores Cannon, and I absolutely adore her. I've been watching her for it seems like almost 20 years. And I still watch all of her YouTubes. I can't get enough. So I absolutely love your path. And yeah, let us know a little bit how you ended up here in this world with Dolores.
I mean, I could talk about it for a while, but to keep it brief, I grew up very spiritual, and my mom, like my family, has abilities. And even when I was like in my 20s, I was going to go to college for communications and advertising, and I took an elective in philosophy, and that just like it was like
Yeah.
mind blowing. And it was the type of thing where I was always the high achiever in high school. But then this was the first time I ever really thought about myself, and that the world isn't how we necessarily are taught and everything like that. I really didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I majored in philosophy, and my dad wasn't too happy about that, but it was fine.
Yeah.
But I really got into that world of religions and questioning and everything else. And then I got kind of sidetracked. I was working in Napa, and so I got into wine and food. And then I came back to it, and I got my grad degree, and I was still working in restaurants. And I really didn't know I could go to law, but that was kind of, I felt like it was the dark side.
Sure.
Anyway, I got tired of restaurants, and then I decided I wanted to be a teacher. So I became a high school teacher, and I taught English and philosophy for 5 or 6 years in LA. And then I went to this retreat, and it was kind of a spiritual retreat. It was 4 weeks, no television, no cell phone, no nothing,
Wow.
meeting with like shaman and a Buddhist monk and all these different people. And it really, it brought me back to my 20s. And I decided I was going to do counseling because I liked teaching, but I liked working with students more one-on-one in terms of their personal lives. And
Sure.
so I started doing that. But then it was like this, it was a grad program in clinical mental health counseling. And there's just aspects of it that it didn't talk about spirituality. And yeah, they recognize that spirituality is part of mental and physical wellness, but that's something that no one really talks about because it's kind of controversial, and people might think that you're trying to convert them, but it's such an essential part of our wellness. We're spiritual beings. How could we not
Yeah.
be counseling about spirituality? So
Right.
I was a project, and after about 3 years, I was becoming very vocal about how to integrate spirituality into traditional counseling. And I've kind of, I guess Dolores found me,
Yeah. Yeah.
so to speak. And actually, I grew up in Las Vegas around Area 51, so I always had this weird fascination and terror around aliens. I had an
Yeah.
uncle that send me books with hypnosis, ironically, when I was a kid, and I didn't sleep much when I was around 10 or 11, just because I was so terrified. But then I saw she had the book, The Custodians, and I downloaded it on Audible, and I was going to put it to the side to just as kind of just for fun reading to get away from counseling. And it was nothing like I expected. It was connecting. It wasn't the, grab your children and run type thing. It was just connecting the universe and extraterrestrials and lifetimes and ghosts and spirituality. And I couldn't get enough. And I just found myself reading her books. And then
Mm.
I kept getting this nudge. It was like I knew you could do the training, but I was like, I've been in school for 4 years. I can't just stop. But it just it was this little voice, and I was like, just do it. And I
Yeah.
did it, and it's the best decision I could have made. That was kind of the long answer, but
Yeah. No, no. I mean, I love it. And I love that it started out with that 4 week uh
yeah,
workshop, which 4 weeks is a long time.
it was no television, no cell phone, no computer. It was,
Yeah.
but it was like I reset, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really good.
I can imagine. That's
Yeah,
that's so when was that? What was that in the 2000s?
2018.
Oh, okay. So like 5 years ago. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So so that is a big deal without the cell phone for 4 weeks. Because by 2018, we were all pretty much addicted by then.
Yeah, but it was really it's what I needed, and it was unexpected kind of. LA wasn't really good for me, and it was
Yeah,
really stressful. Southern California is really not my speed. I like Northern
yeah.
a little bit better, so it was in restaurants it was different too, because it was
Mhm.
like I was used to foodies and winos and everything else. In LA, it was, when am I going to get my next audition? And it wasn't the same. So it was like, where
Yeah,
am I? So anyway,
awesome.
yeah.
Did
So
you work with Dolores directly?
I wish, because she passed away in 2014.
Oh, that's
Uh,
right. That's right. Yep.
so I kind of I missed out on that. I had my own QHHT sessions. She came through at the end, which was pretty amazing for me and really meaningful. So in a way, I have met her, but not in physical
Yeah,
form.
yeah. I understand that. It's all the same. Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Okay, you know what? So let's get into the meat of all of this that is so
Mhm.
fascinating. And yeah, let's talk about the quantum healing hypnosis. So what does it mean for the person that this is the first time they're hearing about it? What does it mean and why does it mean anything to them?
You know, I think the thing that I always start with is the fact that we have the preconceived ideas of what hypnosis is, with the clucking chickens on the stage and people being embarrassed out of their minds. And it's really unfortunate, because even when I was first thinking of doing this, that's all I could think about. And the guys with the swinging watches and all that, and all the stereotypes and skepticism that comes along with it. And the really unfortunate part is hypnosis is so powerful, and this type of work is so powerful, in that it makes our current medical field and understandings of the body and everything else, it kind of blows it out of the water. And I think we're at a time where people are looking for something different, that we can only go so far with the knowledge that we work with right now.
Yeah,
And the matter of the fact is that hypnosis and the quantum healing hypnosis, it it's not just about past lives. It's very intentional in that the past lives that you experience are, I guess, specially picked by your spiritual team, your higher self, in order to help you in the present.
yeah,
And that includes, physical symptoms. Also, we do carry traumas from past lives that we obviously aren't aware of.
yeah.
And so it is a type of, it's not really a therapy in the classical sense, and I hesitate to use the word, but it is. And what would maybe take a lifetime to heal through medications, or maybe not, can be healed in like 3 hours. So
Yeah,
it's just in that alone, the physical healing that's possible is what's draws a lot of people in.
that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate. I can relate to that just with my own experience with clients doing the mediumship readings and
Mm-hmm.
and the healing that takes place in those sessions, that is, not so much physical but really emotional and mental. And maybe somebody came through with this massive apology, and this person in front of me finally feels seen and heard and understood and understands better. And I've heard so many times, do you take insurance? Because this has done more for me than the last 10 years of therapy. So I can absolutely relate to that. And I absolutely believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about the process. I want to say first, though, I love that you said that you include the team, the guides, the guardians, the high self, the soul, for the specific purposes of what ails us now. And I say that specifically because I've been through a lot of past life regression. I went through probably 12 or more years of hypnosis from 2001 to about 2013 or 14.
Mm-hmm.
And so I experienced a lot of it, but a lot of it I wasn't sure if I was just making it up. And a lot of it, I was also questioning the therapist. Okay, so now that I have this information, what do I do with it? What does it mean to me? And if the purpose of this is for knowledge and growth and healing and expansion, what do I do with it? It didn't mean anything to me in the moment, So
Right.
that's my point. I love that you're really tapping into what's happening in the now, and there's a reason, and we're going to find that reason. And I love that.
Right. I've seen so many people who, like you've gone to regressionists, but it's not, the whole thing is about setting the intention. It's like, what do I need to know? And I mean, and it has been revealed to me that, even though you might have seen these type of regressionists that really don't put any value or meaning behind it, you still see what you need to see. It's just that there isn't anyone there to really guide you, or to understand it in a way. So it's a process that's intentional, and I think that's what's so important. And there are sometimes people that will come to see that are curious, or they've been told that they were a pharaoh, or
yeah,
Amelia Earhart. But
I know how many people can be Cleopatra.
well, that's a whole other story, because
I know, and I think it's absolutely possible given the unlimited universes,
yeah,
and timelines. But
yeah, but I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry, I totally interrupted you.
Oh, it's totally okay. Yeah, I'm not. It will come
You
back.
said people were being told they were a pharaoh or they were Amelia
Yeah.
Earhart.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because there's all these curiosities, and people are supposed to come with questions as part of the process, and sometimes they get to their higher self, and the higher self is like, oh no, this, that's okay. She can do that on her own time, but we're going to talk about this now. So even if you have questions about love life, career, whatever else, the questions might not even be used, because the higher self is like, nope, we're going to focus on, so that's the cool process. Because I think with traditional regression, where you don't go deeper and you communicate with higher self and spirit team, you might see a lifetime, but there might be a deeper message that, even as a practitioner, sometimes in lifetimes it doesn't make sense until the higher self, and we ask, why did you show her this lifetime? And sometimes it's really mind-blowing. And it's so I think it's important to point out, like you said, with even though we're practitioners and we're the guides and everything that happens, all the healing and everything, comes from the spirit team and their higher self. So we're just here as the tour guide, kind of.
So basically what you're saying is there is an intelligence to spirit that supersedes our own wants and what we think we need in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, the beauty of it is that the higher self is ourself.
Yeah.
It's that, overarching, all-knowing aspect of ourself. So it is ourself, which I always think is really important to point out. When healing comes through, is you're doing the healing for yourself. It's a different aspect of you.
100%.
It's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the process then. So what does one expect?
That's I hesitate, because the best thing is to expect the unexpected.
Awesome.
Particularly, I mean, Dolores was practicing at a time. Obviously, she was the innovator, and no one was doing it when she first was doing it in the 60s. And the thing to remember, especially with her work, is that people were at a different level of vibration and frequency and consciousness. So, for example, they usually always went to a lifetime. They always, a lot of times people wouldn't remember anything about the session, which is why she recorded it for people to hear. And there's also other reasons, including healing aspects that come through listening to your recordings. But now it's not, there's some people, we're at a different time. So sometimes the lifetimes happen, sometimes they don't. Sometimes people go into energy, they go into, source. They might discover, I've had a client that was peace incarnate and she was just energy is where she went.
Wow.
I've had one person go into the future, which actually was my mom,
Oh, wow.
which is unexpected and incredible because my mom verified a lot of the things that have come through Dolores's books and was using terminology that she didn't even know was a thing. So
Sure.
it's the funny thing is that we call it past lifetimes, but everything's happening right now. So you know that is always, I always in sessions make sure that people know that if you're not in the 1800s and you're somewhere else, that's okay. It's totally okay. I mean, just go with it and trust it. I wasn't shown a lifetime, so
You weren't?
I wasn't. Which in actuality, they said that I was, I understand energy more than would understand seeing a lifetime. They also said, he thinks too much. So and that's true. If I saw a lifetime, I would probably overthink it and overanalyze it. So it was more, I was just floating through space and there's colors and yeah. So the
Wow.
unexpected is the way to go in. And sometimes you'll be a rock, sometimes
Totally.
you'll be a tree, you might be a planet. I mean, anything's possible.
Have you had people go to that place of life between lives?
I have. I have. I typically, I mean, I get nudges when I'm doing the work that I do in terms of where I need to take them. And initially, the higher self and spirit teams would have full control, but then I kind of follow my gut. So I feel like that there's times when people have particular questions that they need to kind of explore the afterlife. So typically in a lifetime, they'll go through, we'll go through the death, look back, and then there's always the moment when you ask, is there anyone there to greet you? Typically, it's people from that lifetime, or possibly it could be kind of your soul family that comes to take you into the light. And sometimes it just happens naturally where they go into the light and then they start looking around, and whether it be there's a resting place or going back to school,
Yeah.
all the things that Dolores talked about in her books, it's confirmed. And sometimes it's the funny thing is it happens a lot with people who wouldn't like I had a client who went there and saw himself sitting down and sharing his life with all the other people he was in lifetime with, and he described it as like looking at a tablet screen and it was fast forward and you could see their whole lifetime. And he just kind of did it because his wife had an amazing experience with me, and she said, you need to do this. And so he had no idea
Wow.
and it was mind-blowing for me because it was the first time I had actually had someone there doing a life review with their soul family. So it was incredible. And when he came out of it, he remembered parts of it and he was like, what was that? So
That's so awesome.
yeah, it's it's so incredible. And
Mhm.
the first time that I did it, I almost started crying because it was just like I've just been communicating with
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm a crier. I'd
doors.
have been crying the whole time. Yep.
I
Mhm.
mean, in the moment when I'm with clients, I'm very, it's okay, this is point A, this is point B, this is what we need to do. And then when I get out of it, it's like just sometimes it's like so mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Mhm.
just talking to an ET.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Can anybody be hypnotized? I know there's
Yeah.
so many people that say I could never do it. I might, I think too much, or my brain doesn't shut off, or
I
what do you have?
mean, 99.99999% of people can be. Granted, if you're a very logical, rational person, it is a little bit more challenging. But the thing to think about is that we're hypnotized most of the day, every day, whether it be listening to a podcast or watching television or
Oh,
watching a movie
looking
or
at your phone.
we're driving and we miss a turn. I mean,
So
we
true.
we have the term for hypnosis, but we
Yeah.
just associate it with the chickens clucking on the stage. But we forget that we spend a lot of our days, even like reading a book or doing a piece of artwork or listening to music. It's a form of hypnosis. So,
Yeah.
just even meditation is a form of hypnosis. We just don't see it like that. So I think that, it's just important to understand that everyone can be hypnotized. Everyone, has watched a television show or something else. And there's a reason why commercials work so well. It's because you're in a highly suggestive state. So it's all about perspective, really.
Yeah. The oh my gosh, there's just so many directions to go with this. So there's past life regression, and then there's
Mhm.
future life. Is it progression? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Future life
Yeah.
progression. And then there's connecting with the soul, the spirit, the God, the source, the universe. Okay, so you don't know where it's going to go at the beginning. You get them in that place of hypnosis, and do you ask questions, or
I
how
mean,
does?
it's a deep relaxation to begin with. And then there's a technique in just terms of kind of having people relax and get into that state. There's a lot of visualization, but there's a moment where, I mean, Dolores's technique uses the cloud method, where you have someone come down off of a cloud that they've been traveling on for a while. And then, sometimes people are right there in a life. Sometimes it takes a while, which is kind of that time when you have to, as a practitioner, we have to kind of work people through it, because that's when your ego becomes the most active. Like, I'm not seeing anything. This isn't
Mhm.
working. What I'm doing. So, and so it takes, sometimes it can take time, and
Yeah,
it's more of a matter of actually kind of wearing someone out.
yeah.
Not someone, but actually their egos out, because the ego is a conscious aspect of ourselves that is separate from us, that does have a purpose and is there to constantly challenge us and gets great satisfaction out of making us question ourselves.
Can
And
you?
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Can you tell us the purpose of the ego from your perspective?
The funny thing is this actually, it's Suzanne Spooner, who is a level 3 practitioner that is, one of the most experienced, and she did a session, and it's actually, I think, online on her YouTube, where she's trying to get a client to let go, communicate with the ego, say, you can step aside and watch. And she had the ego actually respond to her and say, thank you so much for acknowledging us. We get the bad rap so much of the time. And, you know, people and, don't realize that we have our own purpose, and we're here to challenge, and we're here to make people question. Our ultimate goal is for people to have faith in themselves and to trust
Oh,
themselves. But,
wow.
you
Yeah.
know, we have a lot of fun making people question themselves, which I thought was so powerful, to know that that chatter that we get in our head all the time, it really isn't us. I do it too, but
So
just know,
true.
but knowing that that's not us, it's like something trying to challenge us on purpose, is so powerful, that that's not our own.
Right.
We actually completely loving, completely trusting beings, but we have this part of our earth contract where we have to have this annoying ego to question us all the time, or make
Right.
ourselves.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
that's, I think that helps clients a lot to know that that chatter isn't them, because you just have to make the agreement, you know, give me this 2 hours today. You can watch, but just let me have this time with
Yeah.
my higher self.
Yeah.
And just kind of visualizing that. And for a lot of people, that helps. It's like, I'm just going to be here, ego's over there, and I'm just going to have this time getting in touch with my spiritual team.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. That's beautiful. It's given me an entirely new outlook moving forward. I mean, seriously, with my own
Yeah.
readings, with my own meditation, with
Right.
my own, problems, in life and
Yeah.
struggles. And yeah, oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
The thing that was really powerful too about it is that they said, you have to be respectful. Like
Yeah.
they said we get the bad rap, but we have a purpose. We're here to help you, even though you get frustrated with yourself. It's our mission. But if you try to push us down, like pushing someone's head underwater, we're going to come back full force. So it's, making that agreement and being respectful, saying, I recognize your mission, I recognize your purpose and your function, but I just need this time,
Yeah.
just a little time.
It's like trying to push a beach ball underwater.
Right.
It's just
That's
not going
exactly
to
what.
happen.
Yeah, it's a great recording. It's definitely worth a listen to, just because it validates we're here.
Very cool.
We give you our time, and that's our job.
Wow. Thank you for that. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Talk a little bit about, would you give us some examples that the listeners, the viewers can relate to when one does go into a past life,
Mm-hmm.
something that they need to see in their best and highest good in that moment for whatever is happening in life now. Let's say their current pattern for the last 40 years is their relationship with money, or their relationship with alcohol, or their relationships in general, like maybe they've been divorced, 4 or 5 or 8 times, and so, or a health issue, maybe they've been chronically ill for their whole lives. So with some examples that people can relate to, what have you experienced with your clients?
I think one of the most powerful thing for people in general, and it was powerful for me as well, is I see a lot of people that come in and they use the term black sheep.
Ah,
Like, why did I choose this family? Like, my dad is an alcoholic, my mother was abusive, my uncle was a drug addict, and blah 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 blah. Like, why? And this is coming from more the perspective of, we do choose our life experience. We do set it out like a play where the director, the screenwriter, the actor. Why would I write a story that's so horrible and so terrible? And I had a client who she was clinically diagnosed with major depressive disorder. But when I saw her in her home, and like when I walked into the room, she had this presence and a smile that was just like radiating pure love.
yeah,
To know that she was struggling with major depressive disorder and was on medications, just I was so confused, because she smiled and it just went into your soul, into your heart. And but the more that I talked about her, she grew up in a family where it was a very similar scenario in what I just described, where it was just she felt like no one in her family understood her, because she was this loving, just joyful child that wanted to give the world to everyone, and her family thought, always like batted her down or like pushed her down. But then even in school, it was the same thing, where she would try to relate to people and was so friendly and so giving and so joyful all the time, and never in a bad place. And people just thought she was weird. And so she just, after so many times of being rejected and people questioning her, like, what do you want from me? Why are you giving me this? She kind of lost hope. And
yeah,
she was like, so she really didn't understand. So, she was diagnosed clinically depressed, but there was that aspect of herself that I saw when I walked in, that it was just like, how? And so, the funny thing is, I can't remember the specific lifetime she saw. I mean, she was incredibly sensitive. She could see spirits. She had extraterrestrial contact.
yeah,
All these things had happened. And so the funny thing was is that her questions more centered around her abilities and her experiences and memories growing up in terms of the ETs and everything else. And so she was shown a lifetime that I think it was she had abilities, and she was killed in some form, which is actually a common lifetime, unfortunately.
you mean spiritual abilities? Is that what you mean by that?
Spiritual abilities.
Yeah.
So, burned at the stake or drowned or whatever else. I'm not trying to minimize that. It's just a lot of us here now
Been there,
have
done that.
lives. So, in talking about things that people can relate to,
Yeah,
a lot of us now here in this life have gone through that. So that's something we all can share. But I started asking questions about the extraterrestrials and seeing spirits and higher self. This was a case of, no, I asked about the ETs and I was really excited because this was the first time I could ask a question like that. And they said, yeah, it happened. And that was it. And they said, she needs to focus on this right now. And so what the reveal was is that sometimes we choose, or people choose, and in her case, she chose the family because they needed her, that they needed her light, they needed her love, they needed her joy. And it wasn't because she was like torturing herself, and it wasn't because she was being punished. It's because she was the incarnation of love incarnate, and she was there to teach them and show them what that means. But the point is that the higher self said, you have to remember that everyone has free will, everyone has a choice. And if you are a loving person that doesn't receive it back and people don't understand you, that's their choice. They have the choice whether they're going to accept it. They have the choice whether to grow from it. And so I think it's powerful for everybody, because it's like you have those relationships or you have those connections with people where you do everything you can do to show them love or whatever else, or forgiveness, and they just don't get it. And the higher self is like, that's okay. Yep. That's their path. And they said, you need to continue what you do, and you need to continue who you are. And even if you don't see ways in which you've touched people's lives throughout your life, they might come back to that 3 years later and remember that girl I went to high school with, that was really weird. And she was so joyful all the time. And I wish I knew what she was doing right now. So they said, even though we don't know how we impact people's lives, we just have to keep doing what we do, because that's why we're here. And so,
wow,
it was really powerful. It was powerful for her, because it was like it took away all we're the product of our family, or and it obliterated the depression. We got to the healing part, and I was like, does she really need her medications? And they said, absolutely not. It's like, what she needed to know is that she's love and she's light and she's here for a purpose, and she's here to spread that. And she can't let herself be brought down because people don't choose not to accept that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Because it applies in so many ways, because there's so many people that feel like I'm nothing like my family.
Oh my gosh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of them, my partner's one of them. I mean, so many people of that I know are one of them, one of us. It's so true.
Yeah. And it even, I mean, I'll kind of segue into another one, because I had a client, she was in her 70s, and she had Lyme disease, almost lifelong, which with autoimmune disorders that attack your body, is, from the spiritual side, is that you've internalized a lot of negativity, and that, you've internalized a lot of criticism from other people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why autoimmune disease come to the forefront. And it's because those people need to release that. So she had an adoptive mother. She grew up with an adoptive mother, but she always felt this sense of guilt, because she felt like her mother was her mother, her adoptive mother. But then she always had this lingering, like, why wasn't I wanted? Why didn't my birth mother want me? What happened? What's wrong with me? All the things that go along with that. Her higher self revealed that, and I think this is a universal powerful thing too, is that, we have the saying, blood is thicker than water, but through this, I've learned spirit's thicker than blood, in that she had chosen her adoptive mother as her mother, but her mother's physical body couldn't accept it. They wouldn't be able to go through the birth. So what happened is that she came through her biological mother and found her way through her biological mother, just pretty much. And she went actually into this lifetime and saw herself sitting on front yard playing with her dolly. She was talking like she was 5 years old and saying, yeah, my mommy's giving me to this lady and I don't know why, and all this different stuff. And then her dollies didn't have clothes on. It was incredible, just the detail, but it was to show her. And this, I've come across this so much, that we put too much emphasis on our biological families, and that there, this goes along with the black sheep, that when we say, our chosen family, even though that's by biology, there can be ways in which, and there is, that we are soul families, even if it's not a matter of biology and
Totally.
genetics.
Agreed.
So, yeah, I think that
Wow.
was another.
That gave me chills. I mean, that
Yeah.
just like, I was going to ask you what kind of, being evidential mediums, I was going to ask you what kind of evidence supports this work, right? Or where what it looks like, but just that in itself is just like, wow.
Yeah. I yeah, and I mean, from a personal standpoint, there's always an aspect of the beautiful thing about this work is that, you know, higher selves, spirit teams send people to particular practitioners for a reason. That it's
100%.
not, so it's not random. It's not you just find someone on the internet and connect with them. There is a deeper reason and meaning.
Yeah.
And I can completely 100% validate that, because there are so many, even if it's the smallest minuscule thing, like I come across a lot of people who they need to write and they don't write. And the higher self is always telling them, just write, which I connect with. So it's almost always a slap in the face. Like, are you paying attention? There's always so much more to it.
Isn't that
So
the truth?
even growing up, I always felt like the black sheep. I mean, I had a loving, supportive family, but, growing up, I had abilities and I didn't really feel like I fit in anywhere. And it just was so confusing to me. And so everything that I experience, even the sessions, is therapeutic for me. It's not just
Yeah.
about a client.
Yeah, they're mirrors for ourselves
Hmm.
in one
which
in one way, shape, or form.
which everybody is. I mean, we're
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
yeah, yeah. So
Do you find that has anybody gone to the place where like pre-birth planning happens, like where we are planning this incarnation that we're in now, and these are the
yes.
challenges that we're planning, and the fate that we are fated to, the family that we don't choose, or while we're here anyway. But yeah, what's that
Yeah,
like?
that's kind of it's a delicate area. I mean, sometimes, usually when that happens, the information that is shared and what they're shown, because the higher self is always in control.
Yeah.
And there is the law of non-interference. So they can't reveal things to a person or a client that would interfere with their life plan. So in the circumstances where they, it seems appropriate to go back, because a lot of times when people see themselves as a baby, it's usually an indication, okay, we need to back up a little bit. There will be information given, but it won't be the whole picture, because obviously if we knew
Oh,
who we
good
were going to
point.
be with, what was going to happen, what we were going to do, and the biggest no-no is when we're going to die. That's not ever something that's revealed, period. But if that happens, there's a reason. Sometimes it's a matter of times I've had it. The one specific time I had it was a girl who, she had this attraction repulsion that she couldn't explain with someone.
Say that one more
This
time. She had what?
attraction repulsion, like it was this person that, like, they, when they're apart, they couldn't
Oh,
stop thinking about each other, but then when they were together, they couldn't
stop
stand each
fighting.
other.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it consumed her life. So I mean, she was given a small glimpse into it, and she was also shown a really powerful lifetime that it kind of supported the fact that they were soul, like the higher self doesn't like the terms twin flame or any of that, but it was someone that she's had several lifetimes with. But in this lifetime, they were never supposed to meet. And that's why that they have this attraction repulsion, is the part of their life plan was they were not going to meet in this lifetime. And so this was when I was just starting out. And I said, well, how does that work? Because
Right.
if we plan out our life and they weren't supposed to meet, but they met, and everything happens for a reason. And the funny thing was is that the higher self, I mean, she smiled, but it's the higher self that was kind of like smiling and smirking. And they just said, sometimes things happen.
It's like the movie The Adjustment Bureau. Did you see that movie?
I didn't.
It's like, you know, they Matt Damon meets this gal that he is like beyond smitten with.
Yeah.
And the angels, the guides, are trying to keep them separated because they weren't supposed to meet in this lifetime. And their future kept changing every time they met, and they kept trying to adjust the timeline and get them separated. Oh, it was fascinating, and I absolutely think that that's very realistic in what we are experiencing in life.
I mean, I get it now. At the time I didn't, but I get it that we do still have free will. We do have decisions to make, and just by virtue of every single decision each of them made, their lives crossed. So obviously they felt that attraction. But then she had just actually, when she saw me, just came back. They were going to take a whirlwind trip of the United States in a bus together for 6 months, and they lasted a week.
Oh,
and they were like, no, not going to do it.
Wow.
But it was powerful for her because it was an obsession of hers. Like, she felt like she couldn't move forward in her life. So that's, that's why it was necessary for her to know that this was the case about their life plan, because she had other things to do, and she had a purpose, and she had a lesson. And just because this happened, it was kind of like what you described. They needed to kind of put that to bed.
Yeah.
Well, not literally, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, oh, this is all so fascinating. So, with your experience with all of these sessions and your own sessions personally, and what do you, from your perspective, what is the purpose of life?
I'm using a cheat sheet from the higher self. It's always about, we're here to help each other.
I agree.
And that's the universal life purpose for all of us, is that we're here to help each other. And the only things that really matter are love or forgiveness. It's pretty simple.
We're so much better together.
Yeah. And doing this type of work, it's a new perspective. Yeah. See, it was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
It's true. And I know that it's so hard. I mean, I think there's an aspect to the work that I'm doing that it's so hard to, live day-to-day life, and then, talk to the Galactic Council, and then, do laundry. And it's hard to maintain that balance, which I'm sure you can connect with, the relationship. It's hard to do that. And but in the moment of things going really not well in everyday life, or things being a problem, it's easy to get frustrated. I do sometimes, when it's like, okay, why are you doing this to me?
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially when it comes to, I mean, even getting back to kind of the physical ailments, like, accidents are never accidents. It's your higher self and spirit team trying to get your attention. Like, I had a fall a month ago, and I was just like, and it was very similar to one that I had a couple of years ago that I asked about in my session. They said, yeah, we did that. So now I'm just like, well, what's the message? And it's so much easier. I think it's so much easier. It's harder to analyze yourself, or not analyze, but understand what's going on around yourself than it is with other people. So it's challenging, but I've always been asking questions, so it's good that I at least have some answers a little bit.
Totally. All of this is so fascinating. There's just like, okay, so I want to touch briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been talking for 50 minutes already. I just want to keep talking about this.
Yeah.
You touched briefly on ETs,
Mm-hmm.
Galactic Council. So where I get what am I asking? We see them. We can see them in the sky. Some people see them in the sky, right? Some people have seen them, with their own eyes on the street or wherever. So they're actually in this world, in our 3D world as we experience it. But then it sounds like you're talking to them spiritually as well. So where are they? In both places?
There's like millions of civilizations. So it's hard to, generalize the no. I mean, it's there are physical. Yeah, this is a big topic. I'm trying to keep it condensed. I mean, part of why there's, sightings are starting to go up. I mean, there is a lot more activity going on now for, various reasons of why there is this interaction that's becoming more frequent. It's also been explained to me, part of it is that because our consciousness is raising, our vibration and frequency is raising, that we're able to see more that we hadn't been able to see previously, which also applies to kind of like crop circles, that
Oh yeah.
a lot of crop circles that are appearing actually have been there all along. It's just that we weren't at a particular frequency and vibration to be able to see them. So
Ooh.
there is a lot going on that's just because our vibration frequency and awareness is increasing. So we are seeing a lot that's already been there the whole time. We just couldn't see it before. There are, the ETs that do, I mean, 3D is really painful. So, and a lot of ETs don't like coming here because they do, in one shape or another, have to, take on a physical body, and it's extremely dense, extremely miserable. And if it happens, it's for a good reason.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
There are cases where there are ships that they, you know, they're in an environment which is not 3D, that helps to, so that they don't have to experience the physical 3D reality. But again, we're also rising in vibration and frequency. So I don't know it for a fact, but I kind of would assume that it's easier to be here than it was before.
Hmm.
The funny thing is that, we, in the hypnosis, it's called higher self, but everything is one on the other side.
Yeah.
So there really isn't a distinction. I mean, there are different levels of knowledge. So sometimes I might have questions for spirit teams, or it could be a spirit guide that I'm communicating with, and I'll have a question, they won't know the answer. And I'll go and say, and this is part of what everyone does, is there someone there who could be able to answer that question?
Can you get the manager?
It's exactly like that. It's exactly like that. It might be, I don't have access to that information. Even in my session, I had like ETs come through when it was like I had my higher self, and then like an ET group came through, and then Dolores came through. So, but they were all aware of the conversations that had been going on. So it was, with the ETs coming through, sometimes that's our guide. And
Mhm.
I even had a client who, she had this incredible, she was going through all these different dimensions, 99 dimensions, and she saw a dragon on the 60th dimension. And then she got to another dimension where there's all these birds, and the birds were teaching her how to sing. And it was like one of the most random hypnoses I had. But it turned out that she actually is a
Oh,
blue avian, that
species, extraterrestrial species.
extraterrestrials. and
Yeah.
and she and it was awesome, because when she started speaking as one of them, she was like doing all the stuff with her mouth, and it was because the being was saying, this is so weird speaking without a beak,
Yeah.
because she's doing this weird thing. But the thing that was really interesting to me is I would ask questions and they almost communicated with me like they knew me and said things like, you know this already, we don't have to. I mean, they were joking with me. So it was kind of a different type
Oh,
of hypnosis.
wow.
But I got the sense that, I mean, I felt like I was joking with my family, is what it really felt like, because I would ask them
Yeah.
questions and they'd be like, you don't have to ask this. You already know this. But then I was like, yeah, I kind of have to ask it because she's going to be listening to this question, this recording. But again, it's all about what you need to see and what you need to know. And there was reasons why she needed to. I mean, she travels interdimensionally, which is coming up more frequently with people being multi-dimensional beings. So those are different. Definitely not a lifetime picking potatoes.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Have you ever seen a UFO or anything with your physical eyes?
I have once. I did have an experience that was confirmed when I was a kid. I wasn't given too much information about it because it was something that I was always not sure if it was a dream or real, and it was confirmed it did happen. But I supposedly work with extraterrestrials in another form, which is kind of weird to say. So, yeah, there was a reason why, like, my family got stuck in Las Vegas near Area 51 when I was a kid. Yeah, there's a long story short, hypnosis can reveal a lot about
Wow.
ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
No, yeah, it feels weird to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, my experience with spirit over the last 20 years is like nothing surprises me anymore. And there are no black and whites. And there's so much that we can't fathomly wrap this human brain around. There's so much out there. There's so much connection. I mean, we are one together here on this
Hmm.
earth. We are one. Like you were saying, in spirit, it's all one. There's a connectedness.
Hmm.
And these experiences that we have while we're here, the challenges that we put ourselves through, that we like struggle with over and over and over. And we've heard so many times, once you learn the lesson, you don't have to experience it again. But then there are so many of those lessons that we continue over and over and over. And when we are open and receptive to each other and this possibility that there is more available to us, that we are better together, we can help each other and lift each other and raise each other and inspire each other. So yeah, I love, a lot of this sounds super woo-woo to a lot of people.
Mm,
And it's like, I love the woo. There's just so much out there and so much
yeah,
unexplained happenings,
yeah. I
and
mean,
and
I it's just the biggest thing is that we're supposed to be doing this work right now.
yeah. Hmm.
It isn't supposed to be woo woo. I mean, there's reason why this information is coming to light, and there is
Totally.
reason people are being called to like get do regressions or
Mm.
seek mediumship or whatever else because we're at this crucial time where not only we're supposed to be doing the work, but we're supposed to be remembering and releasing traumas from past lives. And I mean, that's a whole other topic in terms of a lot of us here now have a collective trauma from Atlantis that we need to, just knowing that and recognizing it releases the trauma. So it's a critical time to be helping each other, but also to be becoming aware of our universal self and our infinite self and why we're here, what we're doing, and all that. Because ultimately, we need to be leaving the wheel of karma and like doing this work helps us to release traumas and not continue on the cycle that it's universally galactically acknowledged that is kind of obsolete and we need to move on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Jason, you're amazing. This is what a brilliant topic. I mean, we could talk for
yeah.
forever, for ages. there's so much to discuss. So I do hope you come back. And, Something Super Spiritual goes live on Friday, which, okay, so everybody, I want everybody to know Jason did my video introduction. It is gorgeous, and he's amazing at that little side hustle of yours. So anybody that needs a video introduction, get a hold of Jason. So
my other hat.
yeah. So why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, what you have going on, and yeah.
My website's jasonqhht.com. QHHT sessions do have to be done in person. So I am in Western Colorado. So if you're watching this and you're around there, I'd love to meet with you. I do offer online sessions in terms of I do one-on-one lighter hypnosis, not QHHT, with past lives, meeting spirit guides, and also future life progression. Again, another whole other topic. And also I do a hybrid kind of using my abilities and tapping in. I'm also able to tap into past lives to reveal patterns that might be existing in your current lifetime, along with physical, like dissecting your physical ailments and understanding what those messages might be from your spirit team, which is powerful for people. And then I do spiritual counseling too, natural progression. And I've learned a lot, and I found that having conversations with people is really helpful. So definitely come visit my website, check me out.
Definitely check out Jason, everybody. I want to experience one of your online group progression, or whatever you just called it, progression, regression, spirit guide work.
Yeah. Especially Kevin and Lewis, Healing Medium, and I have done some mixed sessions. I think we're going to have another one coming soon, working with inner child and hypnosis and things like that.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
We love Kevin. We love Kevin to pieces.
Yeah. Kevin found me. He did.
Naturally. Yeah. So, all right, everybody. Well, Jason, thank you so much for being here with us. Everybody, well, by the time this comes out, Something Super Spiritual will have already been live. So be sure and catch the following week, Something Super Spiritual, every Friday, 4:30 p.m. And guys, like we were talking about earlier, be kind. Be kind to everybody. We don't know what anybody else is going through, what anybody else's kind of day is like. And yeah, just be kinder than necessary. And it comes right back at you.
Forgive yourself. That's the most important one.
Totally. All right, everybody. We'll talk again real soon. Thanks again, Jason.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to the Something Super Spiritual podcast. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, please do share it with a friend. For show notes, links, and to purchase a mediumship reading, my website is somethingsuperspiritual.com. You can also easily subscribe and follow the show on your favorite app, sign up for my newsletter for bonus content, and to keep the conversation going, you can easily join the Facebook community. It's all right there at the website, somethingsuperspiritual.com. Signing off for now, namaste.